Chapter 1. The Forgotten Outpost. The harsh twin suns of Varlis. 9 cast a relentless glare upon the endless dunes of ochre and rust that stretched beyond the horizon, their light refracting through the swirling dust storms that swept across the barren landscape, like ancient ghosts resurrected by the planet's harsh winds. Ethan Cade, a lone scavenger clad in a patchwork of worn leathers and reinforced plates, trudged cautiously through the broken remnants of what was once a grand outpost perched precariously atop a rocky plateau. His breath came shallow and fast beneath the dusty mask shielding his face, the dry air scraping his throat as he balanced himself on the uneven stones scattered around him. Each step disturbed centuries of settled sand, unearthing brittle shards of metal and fractured glass, relics of a civilization lost to time and neglect. This forsaken place had been whispered about in the dingy cantinas of frontier worlds, a place where ancient secrets waited buried beneath layers of sediment and shadow, where explorers were swallowed whole by the desolation, never to return. Yet here Ethan was, driven not by curiosity but desperation, a trader's debts mounting, supplies running dangerously low, and the cold specter of starvation stalking him relentlessly. The outpost itself was a marvel of a forgotten era. Massive walls of a strange, composite alloy melded with stone stood tall despite centuries of exposure to the brutal climate, their surfaces mottled with scars from time and battle. Intricate glyphs, half erased by wind and rain, hinted at a history written in a language long dead, and symbols of a power far beyond anything Ethan had ever encountered. His fingers traced the carvings hesitantly, marveling at the craftsmanship and wondering what stories lay hidden beneath this silent tomb. It was here, amidst the crumbling towers and broken conduits, that Ethan's life was about to change forever. Navigating through the labyrinth of collapsed corridors and shattered halls, Ethan's eyes caught a faint glimmer in the rubble, a faint shimmer that betrayed the presence of something not yet claimed by the relentless grasp of decay. His heart quickened as he knelt to uncover a panel embedded in the wall, its surface surprisingly smooth and unyielding to the touch, almost alive beneath his fingertips. The panel hummed faintly, a barely perceptible vibration that resonated through his gloves, as if responding to the touch of a living being. His breath hitched as he pressed his palm against it, and the wall before him rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Suddenly, the surface shifted, revealing a hidden chamber, its interior bathed in the cold, pale glow of dormant technology awakening from centuries of slumber. The air within smelled faintly of ozone and old metal, a scent that prickled the back of Ethan's neck and sent a shiver down his spine. As he stepped inside, the walls around him pulsed with an ethereal light, casting long shadows that danced like phantoms across the gleaming panels and consoles. In the center of the chamber stood a cylindrical pod, its transparent shell clouded with age but still intact, cradling a figure that looked disturbingly human yet undeniably alien. The being inside was motionless, encased in a liquid that shimmered like quicksilver, and surrounded by a web of slender tubes and wires that hummed softly in the silence. Ethan's fingers trembled as he reached out, brushing against the cold surface of the pod, and suddenly a voice echoed in his mind, soft, urgent, and impossibly close. "You saved me." Startled, Ethan jerked back, his heart pounding like a war drum as he looked around wildly, searching for the source of the disembodied whisper. But there was no one else in the chamber, only the ancient pod and the faint glow of the walls. The voice came again, this time clearer, insistent. "You saved me." The words reverberated within his skull, filling his thoughts with a flood of images, visions of starships burning in the void, ancient battles fought in silence, and a lone figure trapped in a tomb of metal and light for 5 centuries. Ethan staggered, his mind struggling to grasp the impossible reality unraveling before him. This was no mere scavenger's prize. He had awakened something that had been waiting for rescue, a relic of a lost era yearning to be freed. As the pod hissed and the liquid inside began to drain, the figure within slowly stirred, eyes flickering open with an iridescent glow that seemed to pierce through the darkness of the chamber and into Ethan's very soul. The being's gaze was filled with gratitude and a quiet strength, and in that moment, Ethan knew his life had been irrevocably changed. He had touched the past, awakened a ghost from the depths of time, and now stood on the precipice of a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the universe and himself. Outside, the twin suns continued their unyielding watch over the desert wasteland, indifferent to the awakening within the ancient walls. But inside, the pulse of forgotten technology beat anew, and a voice once silenced by centuries of isolation had found a vessel through which to speak again. Ethan's destiny was no longer his own. He had saved something ancient and powerful, and in doing so, had set into motion a chain of events that would ripple across the stars, altering the fate of worlds and civilizations yet unborn. The moment the alien's eyes snapped open, a cold rush of realization surged through Ethan's veins like ice mixed with fire. The chamber's faint luminescence reflected off the shimmering pod, casting eerie shadows that flickered across the walls like living memories trapped in stone. The being inside was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen, tall and slender, with skin that seemed to refract light subtly, shifting through hues of pale silver and faint blue. Its eyes, large and glowing with an inner light, held centuries of sorrow and wisdom, as if the very weight of time had been pressed into their depths. For a heartbeat, Ethan found himself rooted to the spot, the air thick with silence and the unspoken question of what this awakening truly meant. Then, as if the pod itself were a conduit between worlds, the voice filled the chamber again, but this time, it wasn't just a whisper inside his mind. The walls seemed to hum with energy, the very air vibrating in resonance with the alien's awakening. "You have freed me," the voice said, now audible yet ethereal, reverberating through the chamber like the soft echo of a long-forgotten song. The alien's lips moved silently, its voice carried telepathically to Ethan's consciousness, bypassing the barrier of language and reaching directly to the core of his being. It was both a gift and a curse to hear a voice that transcended words and yet demanded understanding beyond what mere speech could convey. Ethan's instincts screamed caution. He knew better than to trust what he didn't understand, especially in a forgotten outpost where ancient technology could be a trap as much as a treasure. Yet something in the alien's gaze, a mixture of vulnerability and an unyielding hope, compelled him forward. His hands, roughened by years of scavenging and battle, reached out tentatively to a control panel, the interface alive with symbols that sparked recognition deep in his memory from scattered fragments of archaeological data he'd studied in younger days. His fingers danced over the controls, initiating a sequence that slowly drained the pod's viscous liquid, revealing more of the alien's form. As the liquid drained away, Ethan caught a glimpse of intricate markings etched beneath the alien's skin glyphs that pulsed faintly with energy, reminiscent of the same symbols adorning the walls outside. This was no ordinary life form. This was a living relic, a bearer of secrets from an age long erased. The outpost itself seemed to awaken around them, dormant systems flickering to life with a low hum that filled the chamber, like a heartbeat syncing with the presence of the newly freed occupant. The technology here was alive in a way Ethan had only dreamed of, a web of interlinked systems patiently awaiting the spark of life to ignite them once more. Despite his awe, a chilling thought clawed at Ethan's mind. If this being had been trapped here for 5 centuries, why? What catastrophe had imprisoned it in this pod? And, most importantly, what did it want from him now that it was free? The air grew thick with tension as the alien slowly lifted itself from the pod, standing unsteadily on limbs that were slender but appeared incredibly strong, designed for a purpose long forgotten. It regarded Ethan not as an intruder, but as a savior, its eyes shimmering with a profound gratitude that defied words. "You are the first to find me," the voice echoed again, softer now, like a secret carried on the wind. 5 centuries I have waited, and in your presence, I sense hope." Ethan swallowed hard, his mind racing to process the enormity of what had just transpired. This was no mere scavenger's luck. He had stumbled upon a nexus of forgotten history and power, a force that might alter the course of everything humanity and the galaxy had known. Suddenly, the chamber's walls shifted once more, ancient holographic panels flickering to life around them, revealing star maps and battle diagrams from a war long ended. The alien gestured toward them, its fingers tracing paths through the cosmos that spoke of lost fleets, hidden threats, and civilizations destroyed before they could rise. "I am Arinder, last of the Luminaris," the being said, the name heavy with a legacy Ethan could barely fathom. "My people were guardians of balance, keepers of knowledge and peace, betrayed, hunted, and sealed away by those who feared what we represented." Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the arid desert outside. The implications of Arinder's awakening stretched far beyond this forgotten outpost. Somewhere out there, enemies long dormant might stir. Powers that had silenced a civilization for centuries might now be alerted to his presence and the awakening of their ancient adversary. Yet, beneath the weight of this dawning responsibility, Ethan also felt a spark of purpose, a chance to redeem a lifetime of hardship and debts, to become more than just a scavenger fighting to survive. For the first time in his life, he sensed that fate had chosen him for something greater. Outside, the twin suns continued to scorch the dusty plains, but inside the chamber, a new light burned fiercely. The voice that had whispered, "You saved me," now carried a promise and a warning that the story of Varlis 9 was far from over. Chapter 2, Awakening Shadows. The sudden reanimation of the ancient chamber echoed through Ethan's mind like a seismic shift in the fabric of his existence. Outside, the barren wastes of Varlis 9 remained indifferent, the sun's twin orbs scorching the cracked earth and casting elongated shadows beneath the skeletal ruins of what was once a proud civilization. Yet inside this hidden sanctum, time seemed to collapse. The walls, etched with alien glyphs glowing faintly in the dim light, pulsed rhythmically, as if breathing alongside the being they had preserved for half a millennium. Ethan's thoughts raced, torn between awe and a creeping unease, his fingers trembling as they hovered over control panels that flickered uncertainly, responding to the ancient presence reawakened in the room. Arinder, the name that lingered in his mind like a chant, moved with cautious grace, still unfamiliar with the freedom his release had granted, his senses awakening from a long, forced dormancy. Ethan stepped closer, studying the being's intricate form, the delicate bioluminescent tattoos that shifted beneath translucent skin, symbols that hinted at a history as vast and intricate as the star systems themselves. The air between them was charged, heavy with unspoken questions and the weight of histories lost. "Tell me," Ethan said finally, his voice rough and hesitant, "what happened here? Why were you sealed away?" Arinder's eyes glimmered with a mixture of sorrow and resolve as he began to unfold the story, his voice no longer a whisper, but a resonant presence that filled the chamber and Ethan's mind in equal measure. Long before the rise of human colonies, Arinder began. The Luminaris were the custodians of balance in this sector of the galaxy, wielding knowledge and power beyond mortal reckoning. Our purpose was to protect the fragile harmony between species and star systems, to ensure no force grew unchecked. But such power breeds envy and fear. A coalition of warlords, the Sarkin Dominion, saw us as threats to their conquest. They unleashed devastation, war machines that reduced worlds to ash, hunting us like shadows across the stars. In desperation, the Council sealed me within this pod, this chamber of stasis, to protect the secrets and preserve the last hope of our race. Ethan listened, every word sinking into his bones as visions flickered unbidden across his mind: the flash of starship battles, the collapse of thriving planets, the extinguishing of light in the void. He saw a galaxy bleeding under the heel of tyranny, a history erased by violence and fear. But beneath the despair was a spark, a faint hope that the Luminaris might rise again. "And now," Ethan asked, "what happens now that you're awake?" Arinder's gaze locked onto Ethan's, fierce and unwavering. "Now," he said, "I must find the survivors, reclaim what was lost, and thwart the Dominion's resurgence. But I am weakened, my strength sapped by centuries of confinement. I require an ally, one grounded in the present, but willing to carry the burden of the past. You, Ethan Cade, are that ally." The weight of the proclamation settled heavily upon Ethan, who had come to this desolate planet seeking mere scraps of forgotten tech and supplies, never imagining he would become entwined with the fate of an ancient civilization. A shiver ran down his spine, a mixture of fear, disbelief, and a spark of something else, determination. For a long moment, silence hung between them, thick and palpable. Then Ethan nodded slowly, the scavenger's pragmatism blending with an unspoken yearning for purpose. "All right," he said. "But if we're doing this, I'll need more than ancient holograms and cryptic histories. I'll need resources, allies, a ship. Where do we start?" Irinder's lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile. "First, we awaken the outpost. Its defenses, its secrets, and the last beacon of Luminaris knowledge must be restored. Beyond this world lies a galaxy on the brink, and time is not on our side." Ethan's mind whirred, cataloging dangers and necessities. The outpost, long silent, was their only gateway. If it could be brought back online, they might communicate with other survivors or warn the scattered colonies of the Dominion's return. Yet beneath that hope was the grim reality of the desert world around them, the scorching heat, the dust storms, and the omnipresent silence of a dead world that did not welcome intruders. As Ethan moved deeper into the chamber, activating consoles with a mixture of skill and guesswork, the ancient machinery groaned and sparked, systems awakening from their centuries-long slumber, like colossal beasts stirring beneath frozen glaciers. Hours blurred as Ethan and Irinder worked side by side. The alien's knowledge augmented Ethan's understanding of the archaic technology, guiding his hands to bypass security protocols and reroute power through hidden conduits. Slowly, the outpost began to pulse with life. Screens flickered on, star maps unfolded in radiant holograms, and energy fields hummed quietly, stabilizing the fragile structures above. It was a dance of old and new, of human ingenuity and alien wisdom, forging a fragile alliance across time. Yet, as systems powered up, a new problem emerged, a faint but insistent signal, an encrypted distress beacon pulsing in the dark reaches beyond Varlis 9's orbit. It was a call for help, centuries old but still alive, emanating from a derelict warship caught in a gravitational trap near a dying star. Irinder's expression darkened. "The Dominion's forces are still out there," he said quietly. "That ship holds survivors, knowledge, and weapons that could turn the tide. We must reach it before they do." Ethan swallowed, the enormity of their task settling heavily on his shoulders. The desert outside was no longer just a graveyard. It was the cradle of a new war, and he was caught in its center. As the first stars pierced the dusk beyond the outpost's shattered windows, Ethan realized that the adventure that had begun with a simple accident, a bump on a forgotten wall, had now become a battle for survival, for redemption, and for the future of countless worlds. Chapter 3: The Ghost Ship and the Rising Storm. The journey to the derelict warship orbiting the dying star was a crucible that tested every ounce of Ethan Cade's resolve and the fragile alliance he had forged with Irinder. The outpost's ancient navigation arrays, though flickering with renewed energy, offered only fragmented data, their sensors struggling against the relentless cosmic radiation and gravitational distortions emanating from the collapsing star system. As Ethan guided their hastily repaired scout vessel through the star-studded void, a profound silence settled between him and the Luminaris, broken only by the steady hum of machinery and the occasional crackle of the radio. The darkness outside the ship's viewport seemed almost alive, pressing inward like a suffocating shroud, and the twisted light of the dying star cast eerie shadows on the cockpit panels. Irinder, seated beside Ethan in a place that once felt like a stranger's ship, but now carried the weight of destiny, remained silent for long stretches, his gaze distant as he communed with the memories embedded deep within his being. Though physically weakened by centuries of confinement, the alien's mind roamed freely across time and space, accessing data streams and memories no human mind could comprehend. Ethan had come to understand that Irinder's true power lay not in brute strength, but in his connection to the ancient knowledge and technology of the Luminaris, a wellspring of secrets buried beneath the fabric of the galaxy itself. As they neared the coordinates, the warship emerged from the shadows like a spectral leviathan, its colossal frame scarred by battles and the ravages of time. The vessel was a marvel of forgotten engineering, its hull etched with glyphs that pulsed faintly with residual energy. It drifted silently, caught in the gravitational grip of a dying sun, its systems dormant, yet eerily intact. Ethan felt a mix of awe and trepidation. This was no ordinary wreck. It was a relic of a conflict that had reshaped the galaxy. A ghost ship carrying not only survivors, but also secrets that could ignite or extinguish hope for countless worlds. Docking with the ghost ship was a perilous endeavor. The ancient clamps and magnetic locks responded sluggishly to Arinder's commands, and every movement was shadowed by the threat of structural failure. Inside, the corridors were a labyrinth of shadows and silence, lit only by the faint glow of emergency lights powered by the ship's failing core. The air was thick with the scent of burnt circuits and stale ozone, a testament to the violent end the ship had endured. Ethan moved cautiously, his boots echoing hollowly as he followed Arinder deeper into the ship's heart, where the survivors were said to be held. The survivors themselves were a mosaic of desperation and defiance. A ragtag group of humans and aliens alike, their bodies weakened by starvation and radiation but their spirits unbroken, had been trapped aboard this drifting tomb for decades. They looked upon Ethan and Arinder with a mixture of suspicion and hope, their eyes reflecting the countless hardships endured in isolation. Among them was Commander Lyra, a hardened veteran whose leadership had kept the group alive against impossible odds. Her initial distrust of the Luminaris was palpable, but Ethan's presence, a living, breathing connection to the outside world, kindled a fragile hope that rescue might finally come. The reunion was bittersweet. Stories of betrayal and sacrifice poured forth in whispered conversations, revealing that the Dominion's forces had hunted the survivors relentlessly, and that the warship had been deliberately left to drift in the star's gravitational well as a death sentence. Yet, in the depths of despair, Arinder's awakening had reignited a spark of resistance. With his guidance, the survivors began to repair critical systems, reigniting engines, and restoring communications. It was a race against time, for the dying star's instability threatened to consume them all, and the Dominion's shadow loomed ever closer. But as systems flickered back to life and hope blossomed, a new threat emerged from the darkness. A Dominion fleet, alerted by the ancient beacon's reactivation, now surged toward the ghost ship with ruthless precision. The survivors, armed with relic weapons and bolstered by Arinder's knowledge, prepared for a battle that would decide their fate. Ethan, once a mere scavenger, now stood at the heart of a conflict spanning centuries, his every decision a thread in the tapestry of war and survival. The battle was fierce and unforgiving. Explosions rocked the ghost ship as Dominion fighters swarmed like deadly wasps, their laser fire tearing through weakened hulls and igniting corridors. Ethan's hands flew over control panels, coordinating defensive systems and guiding injured survivors to safety. Arinder's powers, though diminished, channeled ancient energy to bolster shields and disrupt enemy sensors, turning the tide in moments of desperation. Commander Lyra led boarding parties in brutal close-quarters combat, her voice a rallying cry amid the chaos. Amidst the carnage, Ethan faced a pivotal moment. An explosive breach threatened the ship's core reactors, risking a catastrophic meltdown that would doom everyone aboard. With no time to lose, he and Arinder ventured into the bowels of the ship, navigating collapsing passageways and dodging bursts of plasma fire. Their journey was a harrowing testament to trust and courage, the fragile bond between human and alien forged in the crucible of survival. At the core, Ethan's scavenger instincts and Arinder's ancient knowledge combined to stabilize the reactors, sealing breaches and rerouting power with moments to spare. The ship shuddered but held together, a testament to the resilience of its crew and the fusion of past and present. As the Dominion fleet retreated, temporarily repelled, the survivors looked to Ethan and Arinder not just as saviors, but as symbols of a new hope rising from the ashes. Yet, as calm returned, Ethan knew the true war was only beginning. The galaxy beyond this system was vast and dangerous, the Dominion's reach unrelenting. The secrets aboard the ghost ship, ancient weapons, lost knowledge, and the Luminaris legacy were both a blessing and a curse. To survive, they would have to forge alliances, confront old enemies, and unlock mysteries that could reshape the fate of countless worlds. As the dying star's final rays filtered through the ship's battered hull, Ethan stood on the bridge alongside Arinder and Commander Lyra, gazing out into the infinite expanse. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with peril and promise, but for the first time in his life, Ethan felt a purpose beyond survival. He was no longer just a scavenger lost in the desert ruins of a forgotten world. He was a beacon in the dark, a link between the forgotten past and the uncertain future. And the voice that had once whispered, "You saved me," now echoed with the power to change the course of the stars. Chapter 4. The Dawn of a New Legacy. The vastness of space stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced viewport, stars glittering like distant jewels scattered across an obsidian sea. But within the battered command deck of the ancient warship, a storm of urgency and resolve brewed. Ethan Cade, once a mere scavenger chasing scraps among forgotten ruins, now bore the heavy mantle of a reluctant leader, his every breath measured against the weight of history and the fragile hopes of a fractured coalition. Beside him, Irinder the last of the Luminaris stood not merely as an ally, but as the living embodiment of a legacy that had endured centuries of betrayal, war, and silence. The ship hummed with renewed life, its systems a patchwork of ancient tech and hastily integrated salvaged components, pulsating with a tenuous heartbeat that defied the darkness encroaching from every direction. The battle against the Sarkin Dominion had left scars deeper than the burns across the ship's hull. The survivors, a motley assembly of humans and alien species, bore wounds both physical and spiritual, their eyes haunted by loss yet alight with an unyielding spark of defiance. In the dim corridors, whispered conversations wove tales of sacrifice and resilience, while at the heart of the command deck, plans were forged to turn their desperate stand into a beacon of rebellion. Ethan's mind churned relentlessly, balancing the immediate needs of survival with the broader vision Irinder painted, a galaxy awakened to the threat of the Dominion and united under the banner of the Luminaris' enduring promise. Irinder's voice, calm yet charged with the authority of ancient wisdom, filled the chamber as he outlined the fragile path ahead. "The Dominion's grip is tightening," he said, eyes gleaming with the weight of unspoken memories. "They seek to extinguish all who remember the old ways, to crush the hope we embody. But their arrogance blinds them to the strength born of unity and sacrifice. We must rally the scattered remnants, rekindle alliances long thought broken, and awaken the ancient defenses hidden across the stars. Only then can we reclaim balance." Ethan absorbed the words, feeling the enormity of the task settle over him like a mantle heavier than any armor. The journey from scavenger to savior had been neither swift nor simple, but the stakes had never been higher. The warship's sensors blinked urgently an incoming fleet, vast and merciless, the Dominion's relentless advance aiming to snuff out the fragile spark of rebellion before it could ignite. Ethan's hands moved with a practiced precision born of countless harrowing encounters, directing crew members, coordinating defense grids, and strategizing with Commander Lyra and other key leaders. The ship shuddered as defensive turrets unleashed torrents of plasma and ion beams, each volley a desperate prayer against the crushing tide. Outside, the void became a kaleidoscope of light and destruction, starships weaving deadly ballets of attack and evasion amidst explosions that briefly illuminated the darkness like cosmic fireworks. In the midst of the chaos, Ethan found a moment of clarity and insight forged in the crucible of hardship. The secret to turning the tide lay not merely in weapons or strategy, but in understanding the true legacy of the Luminaris. Hidden deep within the ship's archives was a repository of knowledge technologies that could alter the very fabric of space-time, ancient powers long dormant, yet potent beyond measure. But unlocking them required sacrifice, trust, and a willingness to face truths buried beneath centuries of fear and silence. With Irinder's guidance, Ethan delved into the ship's core archives, navigating holographic data streams that shimmered with forgotten brilliance, uncovering protocols and designs for devices that could shield entire worlds or unravel enemy fleets with precision strikes. As the battle raged, a new plan emerged, a bold gambit that could turn desperation into victory. Ethan would lead a strike team aboard a Dominion flagship, aiming to seize control of the enemy's command nexus and broadcast the truth of the Luminaris to the galaxy. The mission was perilous, a dance with death through corridors teeming with foes and traps designed to kill without mercy. Yet hope burned fiercely in Ethan's heart, a fire kindled by the voices of those who had suffered, endured, and believed. With Commander Lyra at his side and Arinder's ancient power shielding their passage, they boarded the enemy vessel under the cover of chaos, their every step echoing the weight of countless souls depending on their success. Inside the Dominion flagship, the star corridors were a labyrinth of cold steel and menace. Enemy soldiers, trained in ruthless efficiency, challenged their advance, but the strike team moved with determination born of necessity. Ethan's instincts as a scavenger, keen, adaptable, relentless, served him well as they bypassed security locks, disabled defense drones, and fought their way toward the command nexus. Along the way, revelations unfolded. Prisoners held in dark cells, information caches revealing the Dominion's true intentions, and echoes of a galactic empire built on fear and oppression. Each discovery steeled their resolve, turning fear into fury. At the Nexus, a final confrontation awaited. The Dominion's commander, a figure of cold calculation and merciless ambition, confronted Ethan and his allies. Words were weapons, and steel sang as combat erupted, a brutal clash of ideals and wills. Arinder's powers flared, bending energy and light, while Ethan's grit and determination broke through the commander's defenses. In a moment suspended between victory and loss, Ethan seized control of the command console, initiating a broadcast that flooded the Dominion's networks with truth: the history of the Luminaris, the atrocities committed, and a call for rebellion. Across the galaxy, star systems awakened. Ships turned from oppression to resistance. Alliances shattered by fear were reforged in the fires of hope. The Dominion's grip faltered as the truth ignited hearts and minds, a tide of change sweeping through the darkness. Back aboard their reclaimed warship, Ethan, Arinder, and the survivors watched as the first rays of a new dawn pierced the void. The battle was far from over, but the war for the soul of the galaxy had begun. Ethan stood on the bridge, the weight of countless futures pressing upon him, yet beneath it all, a quiet strength blossomed. He was no longer the man who had stumbled, literally and figuratively, against a forgotten wall. He was a beacon, a guardian of legacies, a harbinger of hope, and a testament to the power of resilience and unity. As the stars shimmered with newfound light, Ethan and Arinder faced forward, ready to shape the dawn of a new legacy, one forged not in silence or shadows, but in the unyielding light of courage and truth. The aftermath of the broadcast reverberated across the void like a seismic pulse, shaking the foundations of empires and awakening dormant hope in the hearts of countless beings. Systems once suffocated beneath the Dominion's iron fist began to stir with rebellion, their secret fleets and hidden factions rallying under the banner of the Luminaris' ancient promise. Ethan, standing beside Arinder on the bridge of their battered yet resolute warship, felt the weight of history shift beneath their feet. The galaxy was no longer a silent graveyard of forgotten wars. It had become a battlefield for the future, where every star was a beacon of resistance and every soul aflame against the encroaching darkness. In the weeks that followed, alliances forged in fire and necessity grew stronger. Commanders, diplomats, and freedom fighters reached out across the stars, their messages carried by revived communications networks sparked to life by Arinder's ancient technology. The warship became a symbol, immobile bastion of hope and knowledge, charting courses through contested space, delivering aid, and gathering intelligence. Ethan's transformation from scavenger to leader became legend, his pragmatism tempered by courage and a growing understanding of the delicate balance between power and responsibility. Yet beneath the rising tide of rebellion, shadows lingered. The Dominion, bruised but far from broken, unleashed new horrors: cloaked assassins, war machines of terrifying design, and insidious propaganda aimed at fracturing the fragile unity. Every victory came with a cost. Every moment of peace was a breath held before the storm. But the Luminaris legacy, embodied now in Arinder and the coalition he inspired, proved resilient. Ancient defenses hidden within the fabric of the galaxy awoke, relics of a forgotten age that bent space and time, turning tides in unexpected ways. Amidst this chaos, Ethan found moments of quiet reflection. The voice that had whispered to him from the depths of a 500-year-old wall, the voice that had said, "You saved me," now echoed within his own soul. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, a single spark could kindle a blaze that illuminated the stars. He thought of the dusty ruins of Varlis 9, the ghost ship orbiting a dying star, and the faces of the survivors who had placed their trust in a stranger's courage. Every choice, every sacrifice, had led to this fragile dawn. Irinder approached him one evening as the warship drifted through the serene glow of a nebula, their silhouettes framed by the swirling colors of cosmic clouds. "The path ahead is uncertain," the Luminaris said softly, "but our unity is the galaxy's shield. You carry not just my legacy, but the hopes of countless worlds." Ethan nodded, the burdens and hopes intertwined, yet a fierce determination burned in his eyes. "We'll face whatever comes together." As the stars shone like distant promises, the warship charted a course into the unknown, a beacon in the void, heralding a future shaped by courage, unity, and the enduring power of a whispered voice that had refused to be silenced. The galaxy was awakening, and with it, a new era born from the courage of a scavenger who had stumbled upon destiny.